Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 40 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about roller coasters. My name is Nathan Pottle, and thank you for joining me today. Now, this is the last Friday of 2019, and so we're marking not only the end of the year, but we're marking the end of the decade. The 2010s are over. It's going to be the 2020s soon, a new decade of movies, a whole bunch of new stuff to look forward to. But for today's episode, I wanted to look back at what are the best movies of the decade. I actually took a lot of time preparing this. I sat down, went through lists and lists of movies that have come out in the last 10 years, and I very quickly realized that I could not do a simple top 10. That's just not enough. Even top 20 was really difficult. I did do it, though. I've got 20 movies here that I'm wanting to talk about. Before I do that, first, I wanted to quickly mention The Rise of Skywalker is in theaters right now, and I did have a chance to go see it. I'm not going to do a individual episode to review this movie, so I'm going to talk about it briefly right now. And the reason I'm not going to do a full episode is because I kind of have the next few weeks planned out for episodes. I don't really have somewhere to stick in a movie review. And also, I just didn't really like it at all. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It disregards the events of The Last Jedi, which, as I've said before, is a movie I quite enjoy. So it really is pandering to fans, and I don't like being pandered to. It really is just spoon-feeding fans, nostalgia, and a bunch of other stuff that I'm not really a fan of. So The Rise of Skywalker, I didn't think it was very good. So I'm not going to do a whole episode on it, which is a shame because I really like Star Wars, and this movie just completely let me down. But I will not talk about it anymore. Let's talk about some great movies that came out in the last 10 years. Now, I could make a list of top 20, but I couldn't decide how to rank them. So, I couldn't decide what was the best and what was the worst out of these amazing movies. So I'm going to talk about them in release order. So let's just get started. Going all the way back to June 18th of 2010 is Toy Story 3. Now, Toy Story 3 is absolutely incredible. If it were to stay at just those three movies and we didn't have Toy Story 4 come out this year, I would say it would be a pretty near perfect end to an amazing trilogy. Fantastic movie, really high quality animation, strong story. It's really, really just fantastic. There's nothing wrong with Toy Story 3. I like that movie quite a bit. But like I've said before, I'm just a big fan of the Toy Story franchise in general, especially because I was 2, I think, when the first Toy Story came out. So these movies have just kind of always been with me. It's the one that I would just play again and again on the VHS. The first Toy Story, not Toy Story 3. But Toy Story 3 is fantastic. I really like it a lot. Lots of good humor. I love when Mr. Potato Head puts himself on the tortilla and he's just kind of flopping around. I love Spanish Buzz. Everything is just so good. A lot of fun. I love Ken's fashion show that he gives for Barbie as well. It's just a great movie. So Toy Story 3 is the first one on my list, and it came out in 2010. Another movie that came out in 2010 is Inception. Now, Inception is pretty great in the sense that it is so original and so deep and layered and just, oh my goodness. I remember seeing this in theaters 10 years ago and just having my mind blown by the storytelling here and the way that it's edited and pieced together. It's just such a well-realized concept that you can't help but really enjoy it and really admire the technical achievement that is Inception. And especially because Christopher Nolan really likes to do everything in camera as much as possible. So when Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is fighting in that hallway and the hallway is rotating from the gravity, they actually built that. And if you have the DVD or Blu-ray of Inception, the special features of building that hallway is very, very cool, and watching how they did it is very interesting, and I like it a lot. So Inception is another movie that is really great, and it came out in 2010. I only have one movie from 2011. It came out on August 10th, and that is The Help. Now, The Help, I believe, was nominated for Best Picture. It did not win, and I'm pretty sure Octavia Spencer won her Academy Award for this movie. She's very good in the movie. She's like the standout for sure. Everything that her character Minnie does is very, very good. Bryce Dallas Howard is in this movie. Emma Stone was nominated for her performance as well. Jessica Chastain is really charming and delightful in this movie too. She just has such a charisma and such optimism despite the things that her character is going through. So I really like all of the journeys that all of the characters go through. What's the name of the mom of Emma Stone's character's mom? Who is that actress? I just saw her in a movie last night. I watched Miracle on 34th Street last night in preparation for Christmas, and she was in it. I can't remember her name. She also plays the mom in I, Tonya, and she's really good in I, Tonya if you haven't seen it. But The Help is a fantastic movie, really great performances, really powerful story about like racial equality and stuff. So The Help is fantastic. Now, I am a sucker for a good true story movie. I really like them, especially when they're done well, and this movie is just fantastic. My next movie that I'm talking about, The Help isn't a true story, it's based off of a book. But my next movie is a true story movie, and it came out on December 30th of 2013, and that is Saving Mr. Banks. Now, Saving Mr. Banks is the story of Walt Disney working with author P.L. Travers on the making of Mary Poppins. Now, if you haven't seen Mary Poppins, you might not care to watch this movie. But I would say that watching this movie might inspire you to want to watch Mary Poppins. Just because of all of the things that they had to go through and everything that they had to work on in order to make this movie happen. So if you haven't seen Mary Poppins or you're not that interested, I would say give Saving Mr. Banks a try first and see if the story of the making the movie is interesting enough to make you kind of want to see what the finished product is after they finished making the movie. I find it fascinating with Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney, and he's just fantastic as always because he's Tom Hanks. We have Emma Thompson plays P.L. Travers. We've got the Sherman Brothers in here too. If you're not familiar with the Sherman Brothers, they are composers who worked for Walt Disney. One of them has passed away. I can't remember their names. I just always know them as the Sherman Brothers. There's a really great documentary on them on Disney Plus. So if you want to check that out, you can find out more about the Sherman Brothers. But they wrote lots of songs like The Tiki Room at Disneyland and World. They wrote It's a Small World, which take it or leave it. Some people love it. Some people really hate It's a Small World. These guys were just so talented, and working, like, everything going on in the making of this movie is just fascinating. Saving Mr. Banks, I think, is a fantastic movie. I actually have the controversial opinion that it's the best Mary Poppins movie. Between Mary Poppins, Saving Mr. Banks, and Mary Poppins Returns, I think that Saving Mr. Banks is the best movie about Mary Poppins. We're going to move on, though. Number 5 on my list came out on February 7th of 2014, and that is the Lego Movie. Now, the Lego Movie is just brilliant. I love how on the nose it is, how purposefully on the nose it is, and it points out the ridiculousness of some of, like, the genre. It's really funny, it's really fast-paced. I love the way that it's animated to look like stop motion. I love the story, how it's all about, like, the bond between a father and a son. I'm a big sucker for themes of family, so the Lego Movie just has everything that I want. It's one of those movies that I can just throw on and have in the background and just listen to while I'm doing stuff around the house, because I like this movie that much. The Lego Movie just is firing on all cylinders from start to finish, and it started off a franchise with, like, the Lego Batman movie is also really good. Lego Ninjago is not that good. Don't watch Lego Ninjago. But the Lego Movie 2, the second part, I really liked. And that's all stemming from the first Lego movie that came out back in 2014, which I hold is the best one. I like it a lot. It's got Chris Pratt, it's got Elizabeth Banks, Nick Offerman, bunch of other people. There's a lot of really famous names voicing characters in this, and they all do super well. On to number 6 on my list, and that came out in March of 2014, March 28th, if we want to be specific, because I wrote it down, and that's The Grand Budapest Hotel. This movie is directed by Wes Anderson and stars Ralph Fiennes and the guy who plays Zero. And this movie is just a delight. Everything about it is so charming, from its musical score to its set design to the way the camera moves to the way the characters act and interact with each other. It's just such a charming, quirky, funny movie. It's one of those movies that me and my wife will watch all the time. I think in the entirety of our time being together, I think we've watched The Grand Budapest Hotel more than any other movie, just because it's so accessible and easy, even though it's not my favorite movie of all time. But it's just something that we both can always agree on, and we're like, let's watch Grand Budapest Hotel. And we're like, okay, it's a pretty great movie. We should watch it. So we watched The Grand Budapest Hotel, and every time I'm laughing and I'm enjoying it. It's kind of like a story within a story within a story type deal, the way the story is being told. And that's fine. It's nothing unique or crazy, but it's still the way they introduce the characters to you, I find is fun and interesting. And yeah, it's just a really, really good movie. I like it a lot, The Grand Budapest Hotel. I have one more movie from 2014. So number 7 on my list came out on October 15th of 2014, and that is Whiplash. Now, this is kind of the directorial debut of Damien Chazelle, who went on to direct La La Land and then First Man, both of which I really, really like. But Whiplash, oh my goodness. So I still hold to the fact that Whiplash should have won Best Picture that year that it came out. It lost to Birdman. Now, Birdman is very good, directed by Alejandro Inarritu. Very, very good, but not as good as Whiplash in my opinion. This movie is just so visceral. The emotion is so raw that you can just feel it. It's, oh my goodness, it's just about the determination of this kid who wants to be the best jazz drummer ever, and about his teacher who's trying to get him there, but his style of teaching is very aggressive and abusive. And it's about their dynamic and his determination and how he sets aside everything else in his life in order to fulfill this dream of being the best. And oh my goodness, it's very rare that I feel so emotionally drained after having watched a movie, and Whiplash does that for me. This movie also has one of the best endings to a movie that I've ever seen. I got hair on my tongue. Just give me a second. But anyway, Whiplash is just spectacular from beginning to end. Amazing performances. J.K. Simmons won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as the teacher. I can't remember his name right now. But yeah, Whiplash. It's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But prepare yourself to be just haggard by the end of this movie, because it takes it out of you. Holy Whiplash. Check it out. Next on my list, we're at number 8. June 19th, 2015 saw the release of Inside Out. This is the second Pixar movie to make it onto this list, but not the last one, I'll tell you that. Inside Out is such a fascinating story. It's really unique. It's told in an interesting way. We get manifestations of a 10-year-old girl's emotions, and we get to see how she experiences moving from Minnesota to San Francisco, and they just how her emotions conflict and interact. It's absolutely brilliant. The way this movie explains emotions to children is just brilliant. And I think even more than that, not only is the way they interact, but the message of the story. The whole movie is about how it's okay to be sad. You don't have to feel bad about being sad about something. It's a regular emotion. It's something that we have. It's okay. You don't have to be happy all the time. It's okay if something makes you sad. It's how you use your emotions that is more important. Another example, in the movie, it's okay to be angry about something, but it's not okay to go through your mom's purse and steal a credit card because you're angry at her. So, like, the lessons in the movie in that respect is very, very smart. It's wonderful. It's also a beautiful looking movie. I love the animation. Inside the girl's mind is very bright and colorful. And in the real world, as the movie progresses, kind of gets darker and darker and darker as she kind of descends into this perpetual anger and sadness. I love this movie. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So Inside Out definitely deserves to be on this list. Number 9 came out on October 2nd of 2015, and that is The Martian. Now, this movie is about how Matt Damon is stuck on Mars and he needs to get back home. And that's it. It's very simple. There's nothing crazy about this, except the visuals are amazing. Like, it looks like Mars when he's out on Mars. It's a very smart script. I like this story a lot. It's actually one of my favorite books. If you haven't read the book The Martian by Andy Weir, or Weir, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Weir, but check it out. It's a really good book. The movie is fantastic. It was nominated for Best Picture, and Matt Damon was nominated for his performance. Neither won. What won Best Picture that year? I don't remember. But it's a fantastic movie. I really love watching it. Any excuse that I have, I'm wanting to watch it. It's just such a good movie. We're going to move on, though. We're already at number 10. We're just kind of flying through because I have 20 movies to talk about, and I don't want this episode to be hugely long, so I'm just kind of giving like bullet point best things about these amazing movies. So number 10 is an interesting one because it's part of a series, and it's kind of like smack dab in the middle of the series. So on May 6th, 2016, we were given the wonderful movie Captain America Civil War. So not only is it the second Captain America movie, it's a continuation of Avengers Age of Ultron, it's a continuation of Iron Man 3, it's also a continuation of Ant-Man. There's so many things going on in this movie, but it feels seamless. Like, nothing feels shoehorned, it all feels natural, and at the heart of it, it feels like a Captain America movie. Even though there are all these characters in it, Captain America is still the main focus. It also does an amazing job of introducing Spider-Man and Black Panther into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The airport fight scene is just phenomenal. Everything about this movie, I love. There's nothing I feel that doesn't work. This is the second movie that the Russo brothers directed. They first did The Winter Soldier, then they came on to do Captain America Civil War, and I think I misspoke when I first talked about it. Did I say this is the second Captain America movie? It's actually the third. So if I said that while I'm editing, I'll keep it in and I'll keep this part in, just so that I know that I corrected myself, because it's the third Captain America movie and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it so much. Captain America Civil War. On to number 11 is a movie directed by Mel Gibson. Came out November 4th, 2016, and that's Hacksaw Ridge. Now, this is another true story movie, which of course I love, and it is about Desmond Doss, who was the first conscientious objector in the U.S. Army, and in World War II, he decided he did not want to touch a gun against his religious beliefs, but he still wanted to go to war in order to be like a field medic and help people there. And it's about how he single-handedly saved something like 80 people at this Hacksaw Ridge. And not only is it about that, it's about like his relationship with his wife and his relationship with his dad. And it's just a really beautiful story. So like the first half of the movie is about like him and his wife and him and his dad, and then like training for the army. And they don't even get to war until later at the end. But once they get there, oh boy. This movie really wants to demonstrate the horrors of war, and it does. Like, this movie, like, you see people like flying apart and getting shot with a bunch of bullets, and what that does to a person. It's really intense. So if you're kind of squeamish about like violence and stuff, maybe don't check out Hacksaw Ridge. But it's a fantastic movie. I really like it a lot, and that's why it's on this list. Okay, we're down to number 12 on my list, so we're getting close to being done here. Number 12 came out on December 25th of 2016, and that was La La Land. It's the second movie by Damien Chazelle to make that list. and I think he's the only director who shows up twice. Oh, no. I've got another repeat here a little later on. So La La Land is just fantastic. It's a musical about this girl who wants to be an actress and this guy who wants to be a jazz pianist and open his own club. And oh my goodness, this movie is so razor focused. Like, there are other characters in this movie, but they don't matter. Like, it's just about these two people and their relationship and their interactions with each other and how they help each other achieve their dreams. The music is amazing. The dance sequences are fantastic. The color palette and just cinematography of this movie, I absolutely love it. I also feel that it should have won Best Picture when it came out. It lost to Moonlight, which, as I've said before, I'm sure Moonlight is great. It's very good, but La La Land is better. Like, Moonlight's not on my list for best movies of the decade, but La La Land is. So there you go. So La La Land, check it out. I'll move on because I'll start wrapping things up here. Number 13 came out April 7th of 2017. This is the only anime film to make my list, and that is a movie called Your Name. If you've been listening to the show for a long time, way back I did an episode called Under the Radar movies that just kind of like came and went and people didn't really know about them. Your Name was on that list, mostly because a lot of people don't really pay attention or recognize anime films. But this movie is fantastic. It's beautifully animated. It's intricate, deep story. It has a lot of good Japanese culture in there that you can like see and experience. I like this movie a lot. I've seen it twice or 3 times, and it's, oh my goodness. And there's kind of like a weird thing going on between these two main characters. Like, they're switching bodies. But there's more to, and once you kind of find out like what's happening and like why this is going on between these two people, it just blows your mind. And then when you watch it a second time, you're like, how did I not pick this up before? Because all of the pieces are there. It's there for you to figure out. If you figure it out, you're a smarter person than me, and I think Your Name is a fantastic movie. Number 14, June 28th of 2017, Baby Driver. Baby Driver is directed by, blanking on his name. He also directed Shaun of the Dead. What's his name? I don't know. I should have written it down. Shame on me. But it's a movie about a guy named Baby. B-A-B-Y, Baby. And he likes to drive fast, and he's like getaway driver. And this movie is so in sync with its musical, with its soundtrack. The soundtrack is great, but the movie is like perfectly in time with the songs. So my younger sister, who lives with us, I introduced her to this movie, and she is studying music at university right now. And when we were watching the movie, she was just blown away by how the music is perfectly timed with all of the action. It's not something that I even noticed before. I just thought like it's like in line. So like subconsciously I knew what was happening, but she was able to like point out individual things about how even when they're driving down the road and a song is playing, the rhythm of the lines on the road coming in and out of screen is in time with the music. Like things like little things like that. Like everything is thought about to the littlest, tiniest detail. And I really like when a movie goes to that kind of level. So Baby Driver is fantastic. Moving on to number 15 on the list, Dunkirk came out July 21st of 2017. This is an interesting one for me. It is probably one of the best movie watching experiences I've ever had in a theater. I was lucky enough to get to watch this movie on 70mm IMAX when it came out, and I was just blown away. This movie looks amazing. It's also probably one of the best edited movies that I have ever seen. It's just completely seamless, and right at the beginning of the movie, it kind of tells you how the story is being told, but then like as you get to the end, you have it like completely figured out, and it's brilliant. This is the second Christopher Nolan movie to make the list. We had Inception and then Dunkirk, and they're both deserving to be on here because I both think they're fantastic movies. We'll move on to number 16. If I had to pick a best movie from this list, it's probably this one. I think this is probably the best movie to come out in the last 10 years. So, on October 6th, 2017, Denis Villeneuve directed a movie for us called Blade Runner 2049. Now, even if you haven't seen the original Blade Runner, you can watch this movie no problem and you will understand what's going on. It's an added bonus if you've seen the original. This movie is phenomenal. It is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. It won the Academy Award for cinematography. Ryan Gosling is fantastic in it. Really, really good. The story, the world, everything is just fantastic. It's kind of detective film noir, and Agent K is solving this mystery. And in this futuristic world, things are kind of different. So I don't want to give too much away just because it's such a good movie. I can't recommend it highly enough. I do believe it's rated R, so just keep that in mind if you're wanting to watch this movie with your kids. It's, oh my goodness, Blade Runner 2049. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I just think it's fantastic. It is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time list. Like, I just like it so much. With that being said, though, if I had to pick a second favorite movie from the last 10 years, the next one would be number 2. And on November 22nd of 2017, we had Coco. And Coco is the third Pixar movie to make the list. It's the last one, though. It's not the last animated movie, though. So be warned, I have one more animated movie to talk about. But Coco, oh my goodness. This is a movie about family. It's about death. It's about life. It has beautiful music. It has wonderful characters. Like the aesthetic, the Mexican culture that is just infused into this movie is just magnificent. And this movie is an achievement. I think it might be my favorite Pixar movie. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to sit down and really think about it. It's really hard to pick a favorite Pixar movie when you think about it. Between the Toy Story movies and Coco, Inside Out, Up, Ratatouille is amazing. WALL-E is fantastic. When you put all of Toy Story into perspective, it is really hard to pick a best one. It's super easy to pick a worst one, though, and that's Cars 2. But anyway, Coco is wonderful. I love it so much. If you haven't seen it, please check out Coco. Give it the time of day. It is just amazing. Moving on to number 18. November 21st of 2018, we got Green Book. Green Book did win Best Picture last year. It was my pick to win, so haha, I win. Now, this movie has wonderful performances from Mahershala Ali as well as Viggo Mortensen, and it's just about these two guys on a road trip, punching racism in the face. That's what these guys are. That's what they're here to do. It's another true story movie, of course, so I'm all about that. And the dynamic between these two characters, they're just, like, their banter back and forth is what this movie is all about. It's absolutely worth watching if you have not seen it. Give it the time of day, please. Green Book. I only have 2 movies left, and I'm not doing too bad for time. It's not horrible at all. So, number 19 on my list, December 14th of 2018, we got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is the last animated movie to make the list, so don't worry about me talking about animation. But this movie is, like, this movie can't exist without all of the other superhero movies up until that point also existing. Like, if this movie, as is, were to be released 10 years ago, I don't think it would have worked the way it works now. The way it plays with the genre and introduces multiple spider characters to us is something that average audiences wouldn't be able to understand and pick up on, I don't think, without the foundation of all of these other superhero movies that have come out in recent years. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is reliant on the genre as it stands, but I think that it, like, rises above everything else in its genre. It's just so good. It's fantastic. I think it was the best superhero movie to come out in 2018. That also saw Black Panther came out that year, which was nominated for Best Picture, and also Infinity War came out. And I think that out of those three movies, that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best out of them. And it's just wonderful. I love the way it's animated. I love the story that's being told. There's just nothing bad about this movie. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is excellent. One more movie left. It's the only movie from 2019 on my list, and that's Jojo Rabbit. It came out on November 18th, 2019. I recently did a whole review on Jojo Rabbit, so if you want to know my deeper thoughts on that movie, you can go check it out, but it is my favorite movie of this year. It's in my top 20 best movies of the decade. It's just wonderful. A little boy who is in Hitler's Nazi youth discovers a Jewish girl living in his home, and how does he deal with that? How does he struggle and cope? And it's an anti-hate satire directed by Taika Waititi. And what more do you need to know? You should just go watch it. And that's all I'm gonna say. That's it. Boom, done. That's 20 amazing movies that have come out in the last 10 years. Let me run through them really quick one more time. Toy Story 3, Inception, The Help, Saving Mr. Banks, The Lego Movie, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Whiplash, Inside Out, The Martian, Captain America Civil War, Hacksaw Ridge, La La Land, Your Name, Baby Driver, Dunkirk, Blade Runner 2049, Coco, Green Book, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Jojo Rabbit. So that is my list for best movies of the decade. Now, bear in mind, this is by no means definitive. I change opinions about movies pretty often, so in an hour, I might have different answers for you. By next week, I might have very different answers for you. It all depends on how I'm feeling that day, but this is a pretty solid list to go off of. But of course, I would like to know what are some of your favorite movies of the last 10 years. Please let me know by reaching out to me on social media. You can find me on Twitter at PodleNathan and on Instagram at Podle Productions. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe to the show. You can do so on iTunes, Google, Spotify, a bunch of other places. And thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it a lot. And if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.